what about, do you have to bring much creativity to your approach when you deal with an author, when you're first conceiving those campaigns? Or is it fairly, can you say we've got 5 different formats and you work for that one, you work for that one?
I've always approached the business to look at things in a very fresh way, and it's not cookie cutter. It's very, so yes, it is very creative, and what will work for one person had nothing to do with what will work for somebody else, and it's very much an idea business, and it's very much, you know, sort of based on you know, sort of what's happening in the world now,
right,
and what the world is interested in, and how to marry those two things,
right,
how to get how to increase the news value on a particular project, how to integrate into an audience that way.
Right, that's interesting. And didn't you work with CDs when they first came out?
Oh, we did.
So that was something brand new. So how did you approach something brand new?
I think we're talking about CD-ROM.
Yeah.
Are we talking about that?
Way back.
Way
when
back.
Was that?
It was in the early 90s when CD-ROM was just up and coming, and it was such a new format. It was so exciting. And there were all these magazines that were around then, they're not around now,
right,
that were designed for the tech industry and for consumers who loved technology. So that was just a different time, and with I mean, now we're dealing with yet again a whole nother blast of new things: YouTube, you know, websites, online, internet, everything. So I mean, we just sort of it's the Wild West in a way, and it's very exciting. I mean, there's always new things to pursue, new places to go after, new shows, new areas, current TV, you know, in addition to trying to make it as a political channel that, you know, they're doing, you know, there are all kinds of opportunities. So.
And do you ever get involved in web series, that kind of thing? Something that doesn't have, you know, the written component is scripts as opposed to prose? Is that something you've looked at?
Web series.
You mentioned current TV.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, do you mean like the new TV channels that are opening up?
I mean, the opportunities that are there. Like Larry King now has a show on Hulu.
Yes. Right,
So,
that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So those shows where there are opportunities to have our authors interviewed.
I see.
Those, you know, we are looking to make those kinds of connections.
I see.
Whether they're on Hulu, whether they're on the internet, whether they're with a think tank that has a robust following on the web, off the web, you know, it's all different. I mean, you know, it could be in person even. I mean, it could be on the web. It could be webinars. I mean, webinars have gotten a lot more popular now, and it's all about where the audience is going to be.
Yes, where the eyes are going to be. Yes,
exactly.
So if you had a crystal ball,
okay,
what do you think in 5 years' time? Do you think that video is taking over from books? Do you think people will be reading more or less?
5 years is a really long time. I think people love books, and I think people will always be reading books, whether they are or print. So that, I think, is, you know, that's who we are. So I think books are here to stay. I think that video is here to stay too. So I think there's both. And I think that there will be more integration. I think that certainly the e-readers will have, you know, more video, and you'll be able to switch back and forth. But I do think that books are still a very important part of our brain development.
So I wonder though about, you know, if you think in the olden days when people would tell stories around the campfire, before everyone before there were books, before people could read and could write, I wonder about that connection. You know, now we read because we read to find out that we're not alone. We want to be connected to other people, and you can't do that in the same way with the video. So I wonder if we could go back to just a video only type of connection, the way we had in the beginning with the oral storytelling. Does that make sense?
I think that reflection is something that you get when you read a book. You have an opportunity to reflect on a thought and a story.
Yes.
And that is something, you know, and contemplation is something that's a very important part of who we are as human beings. And I think being able to do that on your own, connect in your own world, and then have a conversation about what you've reflected upon is something that is, I think, timeless.
Right, and our consciousness has evolved to the point that we need that. You know, perhaps back in medieval times that wasn't a feature of humanity the way it is now. Yeah, so perhaps we won't be going back to that.
I don't know. I think that I do hope that we, you know, sort of the next generation can appreciate and will be given the opportunity to understand reflection, contemplation, what it's like to you know, sit in a quiet place and enjoy that part of life. We're working with an author right now who wrote a book called Awakening the Brain, and she's a neuropsychologist, and we often discuss how our brain is changing from technology.
Yes.
And we're being rewired.
Absolutely.
And we have to be cognizant of that and notice that. And, you know, the time when you can sit and appreciate, you know, nature and our world and the beauty of it is something that's very human. And I
wonder how this is going to change. You know, when you see babies in their strollers with their iPads, you see it frequently at the airport, and they're obviously, there are some fantastic children's apps. They are unbelievable, and they teach kids, so you couldn't say they're not a good thing.
Right.
But if they take the place of a parent sitting with a child, then that seems to me that training to reflection is being lost. So I don't know, you know, in 10 years' time, what will we see? Because if we're the only people reading the articles about the brain changing and the reflection, what happens to the younger generation? I don't know.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that. There's a fellow that we're working with. He's a psychiatrist, and he's writing a book about the effects of media on children right now. And it's fascinating because, I mean, people sit with their kids and watch like Game of Thrones, when it's very violent.
I know.
And even he has a whole discussion about, you know, you've heard this too, that cartoons were very violent, but they really are. And how, you know, what happens from
Is it
all of
desensitizing? Is that...
It can be.
Yeah. It has to be, it seems to me. Yeah. So do you find, of the projects that come to you, do you find that they're almost all exciting and you don't take them on otherwise? Or are there some that are, you know, that you could do without?
You know, I have the personality that I'm very interested in a lot of things. So there's a lot that interests me. If I don't think that I can be successful, then I don't take it on.
That's your criteria.
I have to be able to give value, provide value, and be successful, because that's sort of what I'm all about. I want somebody to come to me and feel like they've gotten, you know, they've gotten where they want to go.
Right. Okay. So you've had tremendous success with building your own platform on BookTrib. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, thank you for asking. We have a website for book lovers called booktrib.com, kind of like Book Tribune, but booktrib.com. And what it is it's a site for book news, really. It's book news. It's a place that authors are writing original content about subjects that they care about. There are book reviews on the site. Our community of people who are part of our BookTrib community write book reviews themselves. They've taken it on, and we're interested in others out there.
You're looking for people?
Sure,
so if you want to write reviews, go to booktrib.com.
That's right. We are accepting reviews, which is great. And we do giveaways, and we do all kinds of interesting promotions on the site that have to do with books. So it's all books. It's sort of like a literary buffet.
And you do author chats?
We do live chats. As a matter of fact, we do. Thank you for saying that. We've had Diana Gabaldon on the site, and we had about 500 people come.
Wow.
Diane did it from her home computer, which was wonderful. We had Andy Gross, we've had Steve Berry, we have
Linda Leo Miller. Did she do one?
She's one of our clients. She didn't do one, but she may. We have a lot of people coming up. So,
and what's the technology that you use to host those 500 people?
Actually, it's great. The author does it from their computer with a little camera, and then we run it on live stream. And then we use a chat function where those that are tuning in can ask questions via chat, and then the author will just speak like they're, kind of right there.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
fun.
we're sort of marketing them as an at-home with, because you're really seeing an author at their home.
Yes.
The dog's running in, the phone is ringing, but it doesn't matter because it's really just makes it very personal.
Yes,
so you get
not
to
in their jammies.
Well, they could be if they want to be. It's a pajama party. I mean, we do them in the afternoons. We started doing them in the evenings at 7:30. So, but we send out if anybody's interested in finding out more about the live chats, log on to booktrib.com, become a member, and you get all the information of our calendar and what's happening.
Wow, that's excellent.
Yeah,
and
it's fun.
Anybody can be part of it. So
you can
that's
be part
nice,
of it, which is great. You don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, and you also have a video aggregator on there. So don't you have book trailers and kinds of?
We have a screening room, and we run all kinds of content having to do with books, book trailers, book interviews, and then we also aggregate book news from book bloggers around the web. So it's a site that's chock full of all kinds of fun things.
Yes, you could really spend a lot of time on there. Yeah,
that's good.
And then I think you've got a new project, Books Worth Talking About. Tell us about that.
Thank you. We happen to live in the Westport area of Connecticut. That's where our business has always been for all these years. We're just lucky to be here. A stone's throw from Manhattan, and we are in and out all the time. And we developed a relationship with the very prestigious and prominent Westport Playhouse, which we love. And we came up with, they have a program called Theater Worth Talking About, and we added to that something called Books Worth Talking About. And this season was our first season doing a literary salon prior to each of the performances this summer. Okay. And what we did was we had an author in talking about their book that related to the show that the audience was about to see next.
Okay, and is that at the beginning of the new run each time?
Yes, this literary salon usually is in the first week or so that the play begins to run. The next season, we're going to be doing it again next season, and their season starts, I think, in May.
Okay. And do you have to have tickets to a performance to get into the salon?
That's the way it is now. Yeah, you buy a ticket to a performance on a Tuesday, and there's extra content being offered. The literary salon, which you go to at about 6:30, and the literary salon goes from 6:30 to 7:30, and the performance begins at 8. So you get to sort of talk with talk with an author, listen to an author talk about their book, do a book signing, and it all relates to the play.
If you have a ticket to any of the performances, can you come still to the literary salon?
I think that. There's I'm not really sure.
No, I'm not really sure about that.
Really sure,
okay, we can
so,
edit it out. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But we'll have to make that clear at some...
I think they're pretty open, but I don't know that they figured that out.
No. Because it was the first season, so they weren't really it wasn't sort of set in stone.
Yeah, obviously we want to get as many people as we can to come to the salons, and we've had standing room only,
right?
As you know.
Yes, I do know. And so, how many? Just going back to Meryl Moss Media Relations for a minute, how many people do you have working for you? Is it a big team or?
There are 14 of us, so that's a kind of a mid-sized team, I guess.
Is it? Okay.
In the world of books, it's a nice sized team. We do a lot of work. We do a lot of different kinds of things at our company.
And are you in New York a lot of the time, or every week, or?
I'm in New York all the time, back and forth, doing meeting with clients, going to media interviews. Yes, been doing both, so it's easy to go back and forth.
Yes, that's nice. Okay, well, I think that's about all we have time for today. Meryl,
thank you so
very much for coming.
A pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.